Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Nioh on the Geforce GTX 750 Ti. For FPS monitoring, I'll be using CAM. If you want to download the software, there's a link down in the description. And if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel directly, there are Humble and Amazon affiliate links down in the description as well. So Nioh, I'll be doing 1080p, 900p and 720p. To skip none of those sections of the video, check the description below. So first I'll show you 1080p, trying to get over 30 frames per second since 60 frames per second was impossible. And I overclocked the GTX 750 Ti. I added 200 MHz to the core and 400 MHz to the VRAM. Then for the rest of the video, I just disabled the overclock for 900p and 720p. So my best settings for 1080p were shadows on medium, the frame rate cap at 60, ambient occlusion and camera motion blur disabled, and dynamic reflections enabled. That allowed me to be pretty much over 30 frames per second with some drops to 27 every now and then on some specific places, but it's not really a game breaking issue. Then on 900p I used the same settings as 1080p and I got like 1 or 2 frames more. Remember that on 900p and 720p the overclock is disabled on the GPU, and well, the game was over 30 frames per second, no problem there. And finally at 720p I tested 2 configurations. The first one will be just everything maxed out, which means pretty much over 30 frames per second with some drops to 27 FPS on some specific places like on 1080p and 900p. And then I just lowered the settings to the minimum. I turn off shadows, I turn off ambient occlusion, camera motion blur, dynamic reflections, all that kind of stuff. And that allowed me to be between 45 and 60 frames per second most of the time. On the second footage that I always show you on the more open area, 60 frames per second was way more consistent. So yeah, now I'm going to talk to you about the options menu and some of the stuff to do with performance. So this game has an external options menu outside of the game, a launcher. That is the only way to change resolution, so keep that in mind. Inside the game you can only change shadows, frame rate cap, ambient occlusion, camera motion blur and dynamic reflections. So if you want to change the resolution you have to be outside of the game. So in the launcher we have all the options that I mentioned just now, plus screen resolution and rendering resolution. So on screen resolution is the resolution of the screen and rendering resolution is the internal rendering resolution of the game. So I'll just suppose that rendering resolution on high means native resolution. So if you're using something like medium or low, it should be lower than the native resolution you chose above. And the options that gave me the biggest hit in the frame rate were pretty much all of them. Shadows and ambient occlusion are the biggest hits so far, so if you lower them you should have the best performance. Dynamic reflections was a smaller hit, but it's still noticeable, and camera motion blur was just annoying to my eyes, but it was also a small hit. So I recommend you just experiment with that. And for some reason shadows on low run worse than shadows on medium, so I recommend if you're lower in shadows use medium shadows or turn them off, because low shadows just runs worse for some reason. It just seems to be a bug. And my testing methodology was first to show you the first level of the game, where there's a castle, it's raining, there are a few enemies on screen, there are particles, all that kind of stuff. For some reason that's what ran the worst for me. And then I went into a bigger area of the game. There is fire, there is water, there are more enemies on screen, there is some foliage. So I decided to test that and it runs better. So I just show you a small map that has a lot of reflections, rain, particles, and a bigger map that also has particles and many enemies on screen. So I show you the worst case scenario of what I played so far, because I gotta play the entire game before doing a video like this. I don't have enough time, unfortunately. So just keep in mind that in places that rains, there's foliage plus particles, you have the biggest performance hit, like I showed you at the beginning of the video. And this game also needs a texture quality option, which is missing, so people with 2 GB of VRAM can run the game better. And well, not much else to say, the game is capped at 60 frames per second, unlock frame rates will be nice. And on the CPU side, it seems to just stutter when I'm switching between areas. The CPU sometimes spikes to 100% and then goes down again. So it seems to be just when it's loading new assets in between areas. Other than that, the game ran the same for me on the G4560 and a better CPU like a Ryzen 3 1200. So I wouldn't mind too much about a CPU, it will just make the game more stable when you're going between areas or loading new areas. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching and see you next time.
This way! Over here! See?